Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. Veterans Day 2010 is upon us, and to mark the day, we bring you a story of service and sacrifice as seen through the eyes of the Exaros family. In the summer of 2006, Nick Exaros graduated from Dennis Yarmouth High School. 9 days after receiving his diploma, Exaros enlisted in the Marines at age 17. He fought on the front lines in Iraq and later Afghanistan, where he was killed by a roadside bomb in July of 2009. News of Exaros' ultimate sacrifice spread across the region, and when his body was returned to the Cape, thousands attended his wake at DY High School. This soldier's story was as compelling as any newsworthy event on Cape Cod that year, because of the magnitude of the community response, yes, but also because of its universality, as so many other military families continue to deal with these difficult situations. Speaking of military families, Nick's story takes on a new dimension of depth and significance when it's told by Yarmouth Police Lieutenant Stephen Exaros, his father. That's the version of the story we heard recently in our Channel 18 studios, and we share it with you now on this Veterans Day. We'll start with the most general of all questions and comments, really. This must be a very bittersweet time for you and your family.
It is, and it's been like that ever since we received the bad news, to tell you the truth. It's a constant struggle to balance intense pride with deep sadness.
I want to go back to Nick's time at DY High School. He graduated in 2006. Everything that I've heard about him says that he was extremely well-liked. Clearly, he had physical prowess, he had intellectual prowess, he had social compatibility, and yet also everything that I've heard said that he knew he wanted to be a Marine well before he graduated high school. So with all those skills that he had, with all the things that he could have done, what, in your mind, compelled him to serve?
September 11th, and he was a young boy, 13, and like many Americans, took that serious and just always wanted to fight and serve our country and really protect those in need. And we found out more later, you know, from all his friends that they all kind of say the same thing. And
what do they say?
They say he was the kind of guy that everybody could get along with. And at his memorial, a Marine stood up and said, how do you describe someone who's your best friend for life, even though you only knew him for 2 months? And it's just amazing stuff, and we're very proud. And you know, he's not the only one. You know, there's unfortunately thousands of brave men and women that have fought for our country in past, and I'm a Gold Star family member, and I wear that pin with pride and honor, but it's a club that no one wants to be in.
Sure. Certainly, and that's something that I don't understand personally, and many people watching the show probably don't understand, but at the same time there are many people who do, and yes, there are people who, many people locally, who have said goodbye to their sons and daughters that go and serve overseas, and many more will before this is all said and done. So where was your head at when you said goodbye to Nick when he shipped out?
Whenever your son or daughter deploys to a war zone, it's very stressful, especially being a Marine, you know, a ground fighter. He was infantry grunt, you know, so we knew he was going to go to hell and for our country. And he wasn't supposed to go to Afghanistan. You know, he had fought in Iraq and lived, thank God. And, and then his unit was supposed to go on a float with the Navy and go from port to port and be ready in case needed. But when his friend Andrew Colville, who's a fellow DY graduate and Marine, was being deployed to Afghanistan, he wanted to go with him. So he would call us and tell us, and we were hoping, to be honest, that he wouldn't get to go. But he kept apparently bugging them and begging them to take him because he was a corporal and he had been in Iraq and was experienced, and he kept going to the new battalion and saying, I want to go with you, and they let him go. But we had like a eerie feeling about it, to be honest, my wife and I, and we weren't prepared. You know, he was supposed to go on a float, and all of a sudden we get a phone call that he's leaving on, you know, Friday to go to Afghanistan. That was maybe on Sunday night. So thank God we we gathered everybody up and drove down to Camp Lejeune, thank God, and took time out from work and school and drove down and hung around with him and met his buddies. They were all new, a whole new group.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll just never forget hugging him and wishing him the best. And the last time we saw him, he was with his guys, laughing and joking and getting ready to get on the buses to go to the planes, to go to Afghanistan. There were no emails, there were no posts, there were no bases. So he called us, like, luckily twice. You know, one time I, thank God, answered at work on my cell phone, and then the last time he had called my wife Lisa, his mother, and that's when he said, you know, don't worry about me, Mom, I'm living the dream. And
talk about that, because that's something that's written on Nick's headstone right now.
Yes.
Living the dream. I don't know many people that are 19, 20 years old who would think fighting on the front lines in Afghanistan or in Iraq would be a dream. I think that would be a nightmare to a lot of people. So explain that for us.
That's a great point. There's a lot of men and women that feel that way, that fight for our country. They're patriots, they're warriors, and I've met so many, you know. So it's not just Nick, but that's what he loved. He loved being with the guys. He loved being with Marines, and you know, the camaraderie and the help that they do for each other, and so he was living his dream.
One of the greatest scenes that I've personally ever witnessed in my life was one of the worst days of your life, I'm sure, and that was your son's wake at DY High School last year. In my estimation, I would say that there were at least 10,000 people who came that day. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. Talk about the community outpouring and how people rallied around your son, his story, and your family.
They wrapped their arms around us, you know. We were in shock, you know, and it's common, I think, for anyone that goes through this. You know, your worst nightmare comes true. So when your child or husband or loved one is deployed in a war zone, you worry about the worst, but you stay busy and you stay positive. You don't tell them that, you know. And then when it happened, I kept shaking my head like that there was a nightmare, because I've had nightmares. We all do. So when it happened, you just go on autopilot, and, you know, when he came off the plane, you know, at Dover, you know, carried by 6 Marines, that was, I'll never forget that. And you know, we never got to see him, so the last time we saw him was when he left. And, but to come back to Cape, to see all the support was awesome, you know, it was amazing, made us feel good, it made me proud, and I just wish it wasn't, I just wished it didn't happen.
So, on Veterans Day, then, obviously you have a very personal story. You have a very personal experience, an individual experience. But in a broader context, because you talk to a lot of people,
yeah.
You talk to a lot of veterans, how do you remember Veterans Day? How do you think others ought to remember it and commemorate it?
Take it serious. It's not a day off. It's a time to honor our true heroes. And there's thousands and millions of them that have gone off to fight since the beginning of our history. And most of them come home, thank God. And we need to honor their service. And unfortunately, some fall and some are injured. But they're all heroes. They're all veterans. So, you know, salute the flag. That's a big thing. You know, when we hear our national anthem, you know, be quiet and put your hand over your heart and respect what that flag means. And especially on Veterans Day, but every time that you hear that national anthem, respect it, you know, and be proud to be an American, and don't, you know, second guess and look back. Be proud to be an American.
The Exaros family is keeping Nick's memory alive by collecting donations of snacks, stationery, and other supplies for soldiers serving overseas. For more information on how you can help out, visit bignicksgift2ourtroops.org. bignicksgift2ourtroops.org. On behalf of all of us at Channel 18, thank you to all of our veterans who have served our country so bravely and continue to do so. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.